Washington doesn't whisper anymore. It watches. And on this gray, humid morning, it watches with bated breath. The Capitol dome rises like an ancient monument above a city gripped in something more than scandal, something personal. The streets leading to the Rayburn House office building are lined with satellite trucks, news anchors rehearsing their leads, and interns darting across traffic with folders clutched like shields. Something is coming. Everyone can feel it. Inside, in room 2141, the air is electric. Cameras are being mounted. A low murmur builds, punctuated by the hum of air conditioning and the occasional click of a stylus on a tablet screen. Committee members arrive one by one, some adjusting their ties, others their narratives. This isn't just oversight. This is theater. And then she walks in, Jasmine Crockett. Her heels echo down the marble hallway before she's even visible. When she appears in the doorway, the mood shifts. A freshman representative by technicality, but no one in the chamber doubts her gravitas. Her viral takedowns have become congressional folklore. She takes her seat without ceremony, sliding her tablet into place like a surgeon setting down a scalpel. She doesn't look around. She doesn't need to. Across from her, the witness chair remains empty. For exactly 3 more seconds, a flurry of motion near the entrance. Then Elon Musk walks in without apology, dressed in a custom-fitted suit, the kind that says power without trying too hard. He nods toward no one. His gaze scans the room, only briefly stopping on Jasmine. For a moment, something unreadable passes between them, not recognition, but prediction. 2 minds that have studied each other through headlines and algorithms. Now sit 10 feet apart. The chairman clears his throat and slams the gavel once. This session of the House Committee on Technology and Government Affairs will come to order. Jasmine leans back in her chair. Her fingers tap rhythmically on the desk. Not nervousness. Calibration. Whispers swirl behind the dais. This hearing, they say, was scheduled too quickly. Why now? Why Musk? Why her? Because this wasn't supposed to be her case. She was added to the roster just yesterday. A quiet addition, no press release. But someone wanted her here, and she knows why. She doesn't see just a tech CEO across from her. She sees the man behind the system that nearly erased her work, her voice, and today, under oath, he will speak, whether he wants to or not. Elon. Musk sat with the posture of a man accustomed to scrutiny but unaccustomed to consequence. Behind him, his legal team whispered urgently, sliding thin stacks of documents across the table as if paper could shield him from fire. Cameras clicked with predatory rhythm, capturing every micro-expression. The chairman read through the procedural preamble, his voice a drone beneath the weight of the moment. But all eyes were on Elun and Jasmine. She hadn't spoken yet. Not a word. Just a slow, deliberate inhale as the formality wore on. When the chairman finally gestured toward the witness microphone, Elun leaned in almost too casually. I appreciate the invitation, he said with a faint smile, the kind of grin that assumes immunity. Though I must say this feels less like a hearing and more like a marketing stunt for some of you. The room stiffened. A few committee members shifted in their seats. The chairman gave a performative chuckle, tapping his pen lightly against the desk. Mr. Musk, you are here under subpoena, not invitation. Yes, Elun said, eyes drifting toward Jasmine for the first time, and I intend to comply. I'm just confused as to whether this is about technology, speech, or theater. Jasmine's eyes didn't move. Not yet. Elun adjusted his mic. To be clear, he continued, my companies have done more to promote innovation, energy independence, and communication freedom than any other entities in this room. If we're being honest, this sudden interest in regulation, he used air quotes with a smirk, feels more like a reaction to political discomfort than public harm. The chairman cleared his throat again, eyes flicking toward Jasmine, now knowing what was coming. Elun leaned back, hands folded across his lap. I'm not here to play defense for progress, he added. But let's not pretend this is about safety. This is about control. That was it. The slow turn of Jasmine's head wasn't dramatic, but it was seismic. The room seemed to rotate with her gaze. Elun, she said, her voice clear but low, I wasn't aware you were now issuing opening statements on behalf of Congress. The corners of his mouth twitched, but he said nothing. Since you volunteered yourself for cross-examination, she continued, finally sitting upright. Let me begin by asking something simple. A pause. You once said on X, ironically, that sunlight is the best disinfectant. Do you still believe that? Elon nodded slowly. Of course. She nodded back softly. Good, Jasmine said, flipping her tablet screen so the glow illuminated her face. Because by the end of this hearing, I intend to shine quite a bit of it. The chairman interjected, trying to re-establish procedural order, but it was already too late. The stage had shifted. Jasmine wasn't responding to Elon. She was hunting him, and the courtroom, once just another political set piece, was now the battleground they both knew was inevitable, long before the cameras, before the hearings, before her seat in Congress. Jasmine Crockett was just a woman typing in the dark. She remembers that version of herself clearly. A cramped apartment in Dallas. The ceiling fan that buzzed like a broken drone. A single glowing laptop screen, surrounded by silence, filled with drafts she knew might never see daylight. She hadn't run for office, then she had written truth. Loud, inconvenient truth. The blog was small, independent, just a collection of essays she posted under her own name. But one particular post, the one that would change everything, was titled, "The Invisible Algorithm War, How Tech Silences Its Critics Before the Public Notices." It was shared 15,000 times in the first 24 hours. 40,000 the next. And then silence. Traffic flatlined. The post was shadow banned. Her domain blacklisted from search engines. No warnings. No takedown notice, just ... disappearance ... She appealed. Contacted support lines, even filed formal notices. Nothing. A week later, her email was hacked. Then her landlord received an anonymous tip claiming she was involved in political subversion. Her lease was revoked under security concerns. She moved out in the middle of the night, with 2 boxes, and her laptop ... back in the hearing room. Jasmine's fingers hover over her tablet across from her. Elon Musk says something about open-sourced transparency, but she doesn't hear it. Her mind is still inside that tiny apartment, watching. Her voice vanished. That memory has never left her. It's why she ran for office. Not to play politics, but to write again with a louder pen. Her staffer leans down now, whispering, "Are you sure about this?" Jasmine's eyes remain fixed on Musk. She doesn't blink. "They already came for me," she replies, just loud enough for her aide, and the mic to catch it. Elon is scrolling his phone. He doesn't yet realize the mistake he made back then. To him, her blog was a small glitch, a name buried in a blacklist. But to Jasmine, that moment was the scar that sharpened the blade. She taps once on her screen. An encrypted folder opens. Inside, time-stamped screenshots, internal emails, domain suppression flags, metadata trails linked back to the moderation. Systems at X, then Twitter, and digital fingerprints that don't just suggest corporate interference ... Prove it. She exhales. Her voice may have been silenced once, but not today. Today. She speaks with thunder and every receipt to back it up. Back under the blistering lights of the committee room, Elon Musk spoke with the ease of a man who'd spent decades turning controversy into currency. "I don't run from criticism," he said smoothly, gesturing with his hand like a tech evangelist mid-keynote. "In fact, I welcome it. But let's not confuse public discourse with digital sabotage. What we're seeing now is an epidemic of weaponized outrage. Social media isn't suppressing speech, it's drowning in it." A few committee members nodded absently. Others stared ahead, calculating their next soundbite. Jasmine didn't move. She waited, watching the edges of his performance. The micro smirks, the pause for clap lines. He was playing to the audience outside this room, the millions watching live on C-SPAN. The tech brothers tweeting #free speech while streaming on multiple devices. He thought this was about opinion. He didn't. No, she was about to bring fact. "Mr. Musk," Jasmine said calmly, cutting into the lull after his last sentence, "you've spoken eloquently about free expression, but I'd like to ask about something specific." He looked up from his notes, amused. "By all means," she tapped her tablet. A large screen behind her blinked to life. The document that appeared wasn't flashy, just a simple email chain. But the subject line was like a fuse, flagging threat profiles. Crockett Media Thar room tensed. "This is an internal memo," Jasmine said, "from your communications team, dated 2 weeks before my personal blog was indexed. It outlines a policy to suppress media channels deemed hostile to technological progress." My blog was listed, name and all. "Would you care to explain that?" Elon adjusted in his seat. "That's not a directive I'm familiar with. It may be a draft, taken out of context." "So you're saying it's fabricated?" "I'm saying it doesn't reflect company policy." "But it reflects reality," Jasmine countered. "My blog disappeared the same week this memo was circulated. My domain was flagged as disinformation adjacent by systems you now own." Elun leaned forward, trying to seize control of the narrative. "With respect, Congresswoman, we deal with billions of pieces of content daily. False flags happen. You're not being targeted. You're being paranoid." She nodded slowly, then brought up a second file. "And what about this email from your deputy policy director to a federal liaison stating, quote, Congresswoman Crockett's platform poses a reputational threat to our long-term AI deployment strategies." The silence stretched. "Still paranoia?" she asked softly. Elon's face didn't change, but his posture did, just slightly. His shoulders stiffened. The crowd in the gallery shifted. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. The documents were louder than outrage. "I won't be part of some conspiracy circus," Elon snapped, voice raised for the first time. The words cut through the room like a whip crack. Reporters jolted upright. Staffers glanced at each other nervously. The chairman blinked, clearly caught off guard by the sudden breach of decorum. Musk leaned forward in his chair now, posture no longer casual but coiled. The polished sheen of indifference had cracked, and underneath was something sharper. Something cornered. Jasmine didn't flinch. "Excuse me?" she said, her voice quiet but laced with iron. Elon waved a dismissive hand. "This isn't an inquiry, it's political theater. You're pulling up half-context emails and trying to weave a narrative because it gets headlines." The chairman banged his gavel lightly. "Mr. Musk, please refrain from interrupting members of this committee." "No," Musk cut in, turning toward the dais. "If we're going to pretend this is about facts, let's be honest. This is about control. The Congresswoman doesn't like my politics, so now we're here digging through inboxes like this is some spy movie." He smirked, as if trying to reclaim his upper hand. But something in Jasmine's eyes stopped him, not anger. Not even indignation. Pity. "You're interrupting a sitting member of Congress on record," she said slowly and clearly, her tone edged with courtroom precision. "That's not courage, Mr. Musk. That's panic." The words landed like a gavel. There was no shout, no escalation, just the kind of silence that forces everyone to feel it. The chairman cleared his throat again. "Mr. Musk, if you interrupt." One more time, but Jasmine held up a hand. "It's fine," she said. "Let him speak. Men like him always do when they think they're above accountability." Elon exhaled hard through his nose, clenching the armrest of his chair. "Accountability? I've built companies that employ hundreds of thousands of people. You run a blog." Jasmine's head tilted slightly. "And yet here we are," she said, eyes never leaving his. "You under oath? Me asking the questions?" Ripple moved through the room. She leaned forward now, placing both hands on the table between them. "See, that's what really bothers you. Not the emails, not the subpoenas, but the fact that someone you tried to erase is now sitting across from you, with every receipt and a mic you can't shut off." The room was dead quiet. Even the camera shutters had stopped clicking, because this wasn't about past emails anymore. This was about power and who dared to speak it aloud. Elon Musk sat rigid now, hands clasped tighter than before, his charm calcifying into calculation. But Jasmine didn't strike. "Not yet?" She let the silence stretch, let it breathe. Because silence was no longer his ally, it belonged to her now, and in that space the weight of her next question could land without resistance. "Mr. Musk," she said, glancing at her screen. You've made your career selling the future cars that drive themselves, rockets that colonize Mars, brains that sync with machines. You claim to democratize power. She looked up. Then why does your company maintain a threat matrix? The term echoed strangely in the marble room. Elun blinked. I'm not familiar with that term. No? Jasmine swiped, revealing a slide on the monitor behind her. Because your former director of policy used it in this internal briefing one. That categorizes individuals, journalists, and lawmakers under 3 flags: neutral, watch, and suppress. She paused. Guess which category my blog was under? Elon shifted slightly. That document could be an internal draft. It's dated the same day my social accounts were flagged. My email breached and my website traffic dropped to 0, she said, voice tightening. The same day I received a call from a DC lobbyist saying, and I quote, "You've stirred the wrong machine," murmurs rippled behind her. One aide whispered urgently to their superior. A member from the opposite aisle mouthed something to a colleague. Is this real? Jasmine clicked once more. The screen changed. Now it showed a detailed report, a flowchart mapping public critics, and assigning each a strategic disruption level. Her name circled in red. It says here, she read aloud, that suppressing my content was essential to maintain narrative. Hygiene during AI deployment rollout, that's your language. Mr. Musk, your internal lexicon. Elon's jaw set. I don't write every internal document, Congresswoman. But you fund the institutions that do, she shot back. You set the culture, you reward the silence. And you punish the dissent. She stood now, her voice gaining. Wait, you see, this isn't about me being shadow banned. This is about the very systems you preach as liberating being quietly used to bury voices. Rewrite facts, shape reality in favor of your commercial timeline? Elon opened his mouth. But she stopped him. No interruptions this time. Her next words came slower, almost whispered. Double quote, why? Was my face listed under your threat monitoring team, Mr. Musk? Gasps fluttered through the gallery. A camera flash popped. The chairman looked down, unsure whether to step in or stay. Out. Elon didn't answer. He couldn't, because for the first time in the hearing, the man who engineered machines to outthink humanity had no script for the truth staring back at him. The room was suddenly colder, as if the weight of the silence had shifted the very atmosphere. Jasmine pressed a button on her tablet, and a new slide appeared, an internal email chain between SpaceX's legal counsel and a federal liaison. The subject line was blunt, coordinated. Suppression of dissenting voices. The email outlined a strategy to limit the reach of certain online accounts, those deemed critical to long-term technological strategy. And most damningly, it named Jasmine Crockett's blog explicitly. Elon's lips pressed into a thin line. His legal team exchanged anxious glances. The chairman's eyes narrowed. Is this email authentic, Miss Crockett? Jasmine's gaze swept the room slowly. It's not just authentic, it was sent from an official SpaceX email address to a verified government contact. I have corroboration from a whistleblower. A murmur rippled through the gallery. A door at the back creaked open, and a man in a suit stepped forward, face drawn but resolute. I'm here, he said quietly. I was the public affairs director for Tesla. I was instructed to flag and suppress content from government critics who pose financial threats to the company's projects. And yes, Miss Crockett was on that list. Jasmine nodded, her expression steady but fierce. Did Mr. Musk know about this? The chairman demanded. The whistleblower swallowed hard. He did. I reported it internally, but was told these actions were necessary for corporate and national security. Elon's jaw tightened. That's a reckless accusation. Jasmine's voice was steel. It's not an accusation. It's testimony. And it changes the entire conversation about who controls our digital realities. The man's presence electrified the room. Cameras zoomed in. Reporters whispered into their phones. This was no longer about rumors or internal memos. This was an admission. And Jasmine Crockett, once silenced, now wielded the power to expose a system many believed was untouchable. The man's testimony hung in the air, heavy as a verdict not yet spoken but already felt. The committee chamber had transformed. What began as a formal hearing had morphed into a spectacle of raw truth. Public reckoning live streamed to millions. Jasmine sat tall, her hands folded on the polished desk, eyes steady on the whistleblower as he relayed the shadowy orders. From the highest levels. Outside, social media exploded. Hashtags flooded timelines. Receipts became the battle cry. Clips of the testimony looped endlessly. The public was witnessing history, a tech titan confronted by a rising star who refused to back down. But in the room, the chairman sought to regain control. "Thank you for your courage, Mr. Sanders," he said carefully. "However, we must remind all present that these allegations require thorough investigation before conclusions are drawn." Jasmine leaned forward, her voice clear and unyielding. "This isn't hearsay. This is national interest." She gestured toward her tablet, which now displayed a growing trove of documents uploaded live into the congressional record emails. Internal reports, chat logs, all connecting corporate strategies to deliberate suppression. The gallery shifted. Even some committee members exchanged glances that betrayed their unease behind the scenes. Staffers scrambled to process the flood of information. News anchors abandoned prepared scripts, improvising to capture the unfolding drama. Outside the Capitol, protesters gathered. Signs demanding transparency and justice sprouted like wildfire. Inside, the weight of the moment pressed on Elon Musk. His usual composure fractured, revealing cracks beneath the billionaire facade. For Jasmine, the fight was only beginning, but today she had shattered silence and brought the receipts into the light, and the world was watching. The gavel hadn't even fallen when Elon's composure snapped. His voice rose, sharp and defensive, cracking through the charged atmosphere. "This is a political attack, a spectacle designed to distract from real innovation." His legal team exchanged anxious glances as he paced slightly, eyes flashing. With frustration, Jasmine met him without flinching. Her voice was measured, but every word hit like a hammer. "This isn't a stunt, Mr. Musk. It's accountability." She reached into her folder and pulled out a photograph, grainy but unmistakable. Jasmine standing in front of a shuttered building, the sign above reading the Blackbird Gazette. The building was boarded up, a casualty of corporate pressure and digital erasure. "I lost my newsroom because I told truths that made powerful people uncomfortable," she said quietly, voice trembling with a mix of sorrow and resolve. "What did you lose? An ego contest on Twitter?" The room fell silent. Elon's eyes flickered to the photo, then back to Jasmine. There was no comeback. Just the stark reality of the cost behind the glossy headlines and rocket launches. In that moment, the man who had disrupted entire industries faced a disruption of his own, a reckoning not with the market, but with the truths he'd tried to suppress. The atmosphere shifted again as fresh evidence surfaced. A subpoenaed cache of emails from Neuralink's legal team blinked onto the large screen behind Jasmine, revealing something chilling: a coordinated project aimed at scanning social sentiment and identifying critics deemed high risk, including detailed profiles on Jasmine's media activities. The language was clinical: cold, detached narrative alignment, reputational risk mitigation, content neutralization protocols. Phrases crafted to sanitize what felt more like digital warfare. Elon's defense attorneys scrambled, arguing the data was misinterpreted, mere drafts that never reached implementation. But Jasmine's voice cut through the objections like a scalpel. "This isn't draft fiction," she said steadily. "It's a record of what your teams planned, what your platforms executed, what was done to silence not just me, but countless others who dared question the systems you control." The gallery murmured. The chairman leaned forward, eyebrows furrowed. Double quotes, "Mr. Musk, given these revelations, will you agree to testify under oath?" Elon hesitated, eyes darting around the room as if searching for an escape. Finally, a slow nod. The room seemed to hold its breath. The stakes had shifted. This was no longer just a hearing. This was a trial, and Elon Musk was about to take the stand.